Hey, today we're going to talk about judgmental people. Maybe you know one. You saw them at church or at work. You might even have family members that are narcissists. Stay tuned and watch to the end to see what you can do about it. And you might hear a couple crazy stories about what's happened in my life. Thanks for joining. I got married to my first husband when I was 19 years old. He was like probably the second or third person I'd even dated. I really didn't know what I was doing or getting into with relationships, but I was really naive. And I went in with the dreamy desire to have my happy ending and live happily ever after, like all the movies, right? I saw the warning signs early, but I didn't know they were warnings. I didn't know they were red flags. I didn't know that when we got in an argument or a disagreement, that he went cold and didn't talk to me for 3 days straight, gave me the silent treatment, ignored me, wouldn't even look at me or acknowledge me. I just thought that was part of being married. I didn't realize that that's a red flag of a narcissist, being emotionally unavailable. Fast forward, in my 40s, I learned after a lot of research and classes and getting coaches and mentors and reading lots of books and trying to figure out what had gone wrong in my life and why, I learned that he was emotionally unavailable. And I learned that when he gave me the silent treatment, it impacted me so much deep down in my core. It was traumatizing. Why? Because words of affirmation and physical touch are my love languages. And part of this, the 6 human needs that Tony Robbins teaches, being significant, love and connection. Love and connection was my greatest need. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was a huge red flag for me. But thankfully, we were able to get divorced later. Through different situations that basically I became really religious. And he didn't like the fact that I was putting God or church before him. I remember one situation where he had a basketball game and it was Wednesday night and I was going to go to church. And we got in an argument because he wanted me to go to his basketball game instead of church. Well, again, I didn't realize it at the time, but I jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire, which is my next point about judgmental people. Now, one of the things that was a red flag too with him and his family is whenever I would go over to their home, they would talk down about the neighbors. They would talk down about other family members. They would talk down about people in the community or in the news or in the government. And I didn't really quite understand the dynamics at the time. But another red flag about narcissists is they look down on everybody else. No wonder he became a cop later. He kind of had the perspective, or at least from how I could tell, is that he was above the law. So when I was in my early 20s, I knew there was more in the world, and I was hungry to find the answer. To find the answer of the question, why am I here? Why was I born? What is the meaning of life? And what is my purpose? And through that, I met a lady at work And we began reading the Bible together and studying it. And I became a Christian. And I went in with my eyes wide open, and my heart and my faith was profound and so trusting and grateful. And although I had learned so many good things about life and love and spirituality and prayer and devotion and faith, community, there were some things that I learned that were a little bit darker and sinister. That there were hypocrites in the church. And they weren't just the ones sitting next to you in the pew. They were the ones standing behind the pulpit. They were the ones sitting behind the piano. They were the ones teaching the Sunday school lessons. And they would look down their noses and gossip and make you feel so small. You see, I've always been different. And I've had such a deep faith in my life and determination. But sometimes I go against the grain. And I can be a little bit, what they said, rebellious. But all I was doing was questioning. I was questioning why things were the way they were. I was questioning why, with an open heart and an open mind, because what was before me seemed like they had put themselves up on a pedestal. A pedestal that was just out of reach for the common person. But what I realized is that they were a shell. And what they were doing at home were hypocritical. They would tell you to do one thing, but they were doing the exact opposite. And I knew it in my core, and I questioned it. And because I did that, because I had courage to question it and stand up to them and what they were saying, they targeted me. And they started looking for the littlest, tiniest thing in my life, and they exploited it, and they gossiped about it. You see, I was a single parent at the time, and that was different. That was different than their cookie cutter family in the pew, and God hates divorce, right? But you see, years later, I've learned to ask the question. And I really believe that the Bible has been manipulated by men and people who want to control you. And I'm looking forward to the day where we can find the truth in all of the scriptures so that we can see what God's word truly wants in our lives. And I believe it's more along the lines of love and compassion